Okay, I'm going to call us to order at 7 p.m. for this special meeting.
Go close it on.
First order of business is the public hearing on the consolidated assessment rolls. I think most people who are here were here before. I'll attempt to expedite this part of the agenda. Call the public hearing for our consolidated assessment rolls to the consolidated water district to order. If I could have a motion to open this hearing. Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadek, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek,
Yes.
and Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll be open at 7:01. Use my Mickey, it's a little easier to see. Anyone have any written comments they'd like entered into the record? Any comments?
This is the public hearing on the assessment.
Consolidated assessment roll for the water district. Assessment roll for the consolidated water district. If not, because this is the second time we go through this, I'd ask for a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, a second on that. Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we will close that hearing at 7:02. The next one is the public hearing on the consolidated sewer district. I get a motion to open.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, a second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas
Yes.
Wood, Mark
Yeah, so
Manick, Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll open this at 7:02. Any written comments, comments from the floor? If not, I'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Renadek, second. Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick.
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, 7:02, we'll close that out. The next one is the consolidated assessment roll for the base water district. A motion to open that hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Renadek, second. Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll open at 7:03. Anyone have any written comments or comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll close at 7:04. Next is the consolidated assessment roll for the base sewer district. Get a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll open at 7:05. My watch jumped over to an 05. Any written comments or comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Renadek, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll close at 7:05. Next is the consolidated assessment roll for the base storm water district. Do we have a motion to open? Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadek, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Rod Renadek.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, we'll open at 7:06 barely. Any written comments from the floor? If not, I'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadette. Any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, and we'll close at 7:06. Okay.
Today's highway next? Next
I'm sorry, Tom?
Today's highway?
Well, it should be, and I'm looking
Yeah,
for
just-
a form for that one, and I'm not finding one in my packet, which we can do without, I'm sure. I'd rather have the form. Okay, the next is the Base Highway Maintenance Improvement District. If we could have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoy, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll open at 7:07. Any written comments, statements, or comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette,
Second.
second from Mr. Mannix. Any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll close at 7:07. Next is the Townwide Highway District Assessment Roll. Have a motion to open.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadette, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll open at 7:08. Any written comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Lemoy, second.
Second.
I think it was maybe Mr. Wood. Any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll close at 7:08. Next is the Town of Plattsburgh Lighting Districts. The assessment rolls, get a motion to open.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette,
Second.
second Mr. Mannix.
Should make note, I think it should be the consolidated line.
Should be consolidated, let me correct the notes. Any discussion? Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll open at 7:09. Any written comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoy, any discussion? Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll close at 7:09. Last is the consolidated ambulance. If we get a motion to open that public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadette, any discussion? Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll open at 7:10. Any written comments or comments from the floor? If not, we'll seek a motion to close.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manning,
Yes.
Paul Lemoy.
Yes.
George Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, we'll close that hearing at 7:10. That concludes that portion. Next, we have the public hearing on the preliminary budget scheduled for 7:30, so I'm going to move things along a little bit because it's not 7:30 yet. And we'll get back to that. You have several drafts of resolutions. We may want to talk about them a little. We don't have the minutes, Rick, hopefully we'll have those for tomorrow. This is going to be a little bit challenging because tomorrow we're going to be wrapping up from this and we've got to generate the agenda for Monday tomorrow at the same time. The drafts are more important than ever. Normally, we'd look at them on a Monday. We're looking at them today, and they've got to go out tomorrow. So please, if you see something, let me know. Tom was in earlier and pointed out a couple of items. First, though, we have a motion that was tabled from the last meeting, Resolution 328, Glenn Burdick promotion from MEO 3 to an MEO 4. You have that one, Rick? You want to bring that back to the table?
I got 328.
328, yeah.
Okay. Whereas in a tax letter dated November 1st, 2013, Highway Superintendent James Wood has made a request to upgrade Glenn Burdick's title from MEO 3 to MEO 4 with appropriate hourly wage to fill the vacancy that was created due to the untimely death of a highway employee who held this position. Therefore be resolved that after due consideration and discussion with the budget officer and the highway superintendent, it is recommended that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, highway superintendent's request be approved and the finance manager be authorized to make the appropriate salary adjustments according to the existing Teamster agreement to take place in the next full pay period. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the budget officer, finance manager, highway superintendent, and civil service department for final approval for it. And it is further resolved that a copy of this be placed in Mr. Burdick's personnel file.
You have a motion
I'll move to bring it off the table.
and a second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoy and Mr. Renadette on the motion. Any discussion? Get a roll call.
I'd like to offer an amendment. You were moving a little fast
Mhm.
for me on that one. Okay. I'd like to suggest that we amend the resolution with the salary adjustments to take place as of the first full pay period of January 2014. And the reason I make that recommendation is we have a freeze in place, and I don't think it's appropriate that we would be creating a position and funding it prior to that time.
Gerard, you made the motion. Paul, you seconded. We have a suggestion for an amendment.
I have no problem with the amendment, but it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with the resolution.
Okay, Gerard, or Paul?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The only thing I would add to that is, if in fact we're not gonna make this effective till January 1, then it should be voted on by the board that's in place January 1. We should just vote this down and tell Jim if he wants to represent it January 1st, he's welcome to.
Okay, in the discussion, we had a suggested amendment, but another suggestion, which is very logical. If it isn't going to take place until 2014, let the board act on that in January. Gerard, you made the motion. Paul, first of all, I guess, let me go back. Gerard indicated for the purpose of moving forward and going to discussion, he had no problem with the amendment. I support the amendment.
Yeah.
And if we do that, then I think we can have a discussion before we vote on the suggestion of voting this down, as Paul said, or we could let it fall off the table. Well, I'm not sure we could now because we already
Yeah,
have a
we
motion.
have a
We
motion
have
and
to
a
act on
second.
it now.
We
The
still haven't
second.
had a vote on the motion to bring it off the table.
Correct.
Come back to the table.
Correct. So if we don't take it off the table, it simply would fall, and we could bring it back after the first of the year. I see no problem with that. Any other discussion? We have a recommendation. Marty, Tom?
I think
I'm a little
Paul's
confused as to what
suggestion-
we're voting on right now. It's my understanding that we should be voting, first of all, to bring this back to the table. There was a motion and a second. I understand that we could all technically vote no, which would kill this resolution and in effect follow what Paul had recommended.
Yeah, then there's no reason for a vote on an amendment, and there's no reason for a vote specifically to what Paul was talking about. It just has failed to come back on the table.
But we already have a motion, okay, understood, so we can move the vote.
I'm not sure that I understand. Might look to council for a,
Well, there is a motion to take it, to look at it again this week, right?
Mhm.
And I think Jerry's suggestion we vote no, and that'll kill it.
but as far as the tabled resolution has to come back. We don't vote to take it off the table. It has to come back
Well,
next
we've already crossed that bridge.
which was the motion, I'm clarifying the motion. The motion was to act on the resolution.
We probably should have just not bothered to bring it back, but since it's been brought, moved and seconded, I think we have to vote.
Well,
We have to vote.
I would ask
It's a
Ricky,
vote on
I
the
would ask
resolution.
Ricky to poll the board.
It's a vote on the resolution.
Right.
I don't want to be sure everybody understands what they're voting on. We're not voting on to bring it to the table. It has to come back to the table. We're voting on the resolution.
that's fine.
We're voting on the resolution.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
either way.
Yeah.
What way are we voting on the resolution?
We're,
With the
we're,
amendment or not with the amendment? Is it just-
Without the amendment.
Without the amendment.
we'd be voting on the resolution without the amendment, but the discussion would reflect that the recommendation was, if this, if everybody's in agreement, that it would be best responded to in the next budget. It should be acted on in January.
We
during
can
that
pass a resolution to that effect if this one fails.
Mhm.
Okay? I just, again, want clarity, everybody knows what they're voting on. If the budget, if this resolution is voted down, I won't bring it back until January. That's my understanding. All right? Are there any other questions then on, any other discussion? Everybody's clear with what you'd be voting on? In case, we'll get a roll call.
Thomas Wood,
It's not been amended, no.
Aaron Mannix,
No.
Lemoyne,
No.
Troy Bennett,
No.
and Bernie Bass.
No. Okay. Resolution
By
330.
the way, my vote was just based on the fact that the original.
It was the original resolution.
That's it. No?
The amendment was never put in. Resolution 332, zoning map amendment and public hearing. And based on the length of this, it'll probably take us to 7:30. Good luck with it.
Thank you. Whereas the town board of the town of Plattsburgh has previously received a petition from certain landowners in the vicinity of Ruber Street and McConey Drive requesting a portion of the residential R2 zoning district be changed to a manufactured housing zone district designation in the area on the south side of Ruber Street adjacent to Ruber Woods Mobile Home Park. And whereas the town board therefore adopted resolution 13233 at its regular meeting held August the 5th, 2013, and pursuant to zoning ordinance article 17.3, referred the petition to the planning board of the town of Plattsburgh for report and recommendation in accordance with this section. Whereas the town board is now in receipt of the planning board minutes in resolution 1355 adopted at the meeting held on October 17, 2013, which said resolution found based on the findings and recommendations report of the planning board dated October 17, 2013, that the town board considered. 1, terminating future consideration of the petitioner's amendment as requested. 2, amending the zoning map by rezoning R2 residential district tax map parcels 220.4-1 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 34 and 35.1 and 35.2 to R2 with a planned development district overlay, PDD designation. And 3, Article Section 9.2, para D, and the zoning ordinance to provide the permitted use of single-family residential development in an R2 PTD overlay district designation. And 4, amending the zoning map to include a portion of the tax map parcel 220.4-35.1 along the Saranac River front portion of the parcel to be rezoned from an R2 to an LC Land Conservation District. And whereas after review and discussion of the planning board's findings and recommendations, report of the town board desires to distribute the recommendations of the planning board reported dated October 17, 2013 as a draft amendment for the town zoning ordinance to the appropriate agencies according with Article 17, Section 17.4 of the town zoning ordinance and Section 264 and 265 of New York State town law as follows. 1, Clinton County Planning Board. 2, adjacent municipalities within 500 feet of the proposed zoning map amendment. 3, Regional State Park Commission. Whereas New York State law and the town zoning ordinance requires that a public hearing on proposed amendments be held to consider the advisability of the amendment to the town of Plattsburgh zoning ordinance. Whereas Part 617 of the Environmental Conservation Law, State Environmental Quality Review Act, Section 8-0113, seeker herein provides that review of any action to be determined the effect of said action on the environment, along with any related administrative procedures for implementation, authorization, and approval of said action. Whereas Part 617.12B, Section 2 of the seeker provides the adoption of the changes in the allowable uses within the zoning district affecting 25 or more acres, mandates the proposed amendments to said zoning ordinance and said zoning map amendment as a type 1 action which requires specific actions by the town of Plattsburgh prior to the adoption or rejection of said proposal amendments. And whereas determination of the effect of said action on the environment will be necessary to determine whether the draft environmental impact statement is required. Whereas the town of Plattsburgh Town Board is identified as an involved agency in accordance with the seeker for the purpose of assessing the effect of the zoning ordinance amendment on the environment, and whether or not said effect is significant enough to warrant the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement. And whereas the town board has made the determination that they intend to act as a lead agency, and that no further other involved agencies under the seeker for this purpose and the amendments to the zoning ordinance and the map have been prepared and require a long environmental assessment form. Whereas the town of Plattsburgh Town Board, as the project sponsor, is required to review and use the EAF to determine the significance of the said proposal amendment. Now therefore be resolved that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, is hereby receive and place on file the minutes of the town of Plattsburgh resolution 1355, along with their findings and recommendations report dated October 17, 2013, as adopted. And it is further resolved that the town board of the town of Plattsburgh does accept the planning board's recommendations and hereby deny said amendment, and is also terminated further consideration of the petitioner's amendment as requested. And it be further resolved that the town board does hereby accept the planning board's recommendations to proceed with the amendment, the current town zoning ordinance official map, Article 9, Section 9.2, Paragraph D of the zoning ordinance as noted in their findings and recommendations reported October 17, 2013 as adopted. And it be further resolved that the town board declares itself as the lead agency for revisions and amendments of the zoning ordinance and map, and does hereby determine that the proposed project is a type 1 action and a coordinated review under the seeker will be conducted. And it be further resolved that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, in accordance with section 17.4 of the town of Plattsburgh zoning ordinance, does hereby fix the date and place for a public hearing on the proposed amendment to be held the second day of December 2013 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall Office Complex, Plattsburgh, New York, 151 Banker Road. And it be further resolved that pursuant to the provisions of Article 17, Section 17.4 of the zoning ordinance, the town clerk shall cause a notice of the time and place of the said public hearing to be published in the Press Republican, the paper of general circulation in the town of Plattsburgh, at least on or before November 21st, 2013, with such a notice being posted in the town hall and be given necessary adjoining municipalities and Clinton County Planning Board, such as other agencies and parties as required by law. And be further resolved that the town board does hereby direct the town clerk to transmit a map of the proposed rezoning R2 residential district parcels, see Exhibit A, of the R2 with the planning development district overlay design, and include the riverfront portion of the parcel with a depth consistent with the existing land conservation district, to be rezoned from an R2 to an LC land conservation district consisting with other riverfront portions of the Saranac River along with related materials included with the findings and recommendation report of the town of Plattsburgh dated October 17, 2013, which meets the referral requirements of section 239 of the general municipal law to the Clinton County Planning Board for its review and recommendation. And it be further resolved that the notice of said public hearing and a copy of the planning board's finding and recommendations reported October 17, 2013, and proposed zoning amendments shall be posted on the town's website. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution and the attachments be given to the town clerk, budget officer, finance manager, and planning and zoning department.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion?
For the very first resolve, I think at the very bottom of the second page, I think you're looking to place on file the minutes of the town of Plattsburgh Planning Board under Resolution 1355.
I think you're right. Good catch.
The conservation district is it's about 150 feet, about the same as it is in the other areas, except for land that we already have with our own, or this nice egg land or something like that we use for recreation. So it would be consistent along the river for the trail.
I believe you're correct. Any other discussion?
Yes, under the resolved on, I don't remember, but I believe it's page 3. The second resolve from the bottom. Come up 4 lines. Refers to related materials including findings and recommendation report of the town of Plattsburgh. Its finding and recommendation report of the planning board of the town of Plattsburgh.
I'm considering these as amendments to the resolution, Gerard?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Put that probably in the same way. Okay, roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne,
Yes.
Gerard Renner.
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, the resolution carries. With that said, I was fairly accurate, it's 7:30, so we can go back to, I've got a sign-in sheet that I'm going to use for public hearing comments. First of all, to open the public hearing for the preliminary budget If I could get a motion to do so.
Just, could I just ask?
Yes,
That was resolution 332,
the one we just did,
and we had in packet 331, is that correct?
332.
the one we just did was 332.
Was there resolution 332 in packet?
333.
Authorization entering an agreement for optometry services?
We did that
We did it
last time.
Yeah, that was last week. So
Right.
we don't- So this is in order then, at this point?
It's, well, have you got pictometry with you? I don't.
I don't know, it just, it was.
To the best of my knowledge, yes, it is.
Put into this packet, that's all.
Pictometry was?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that happened. As a draft or a numbered resolution?
Number.
What is the
So
number
it
on
was
it?
last, it would have been last time, because that would have been 331, right?
We passed it on November 7th.
But it was 331, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
When we
then
passed it, it was 333.
this is correct, this is 332.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, go to public hearing.
I need a motion to open it.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second, Mr.
Second.
Wood. Any discussion? Roll call?
The public hearing is for the,
Thomas Wood?
for the budget this morning?
Preliminary budget, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Thomas Wood. Mark Manning?
Yes.
Paul Moy?
Yes.
John Renner?
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes, we will open this hearing at 7:32. Just for the purpose of some order and decorum, I'll go with the sign-in sheet. Individuals wishing to make comment, Mr. St. Germain.
Yeah, well, I commend you guys for the 2 pages of budget cuts you made. The only problem with that is the fact that the budget cuts you made were not budget cuts. You inflated all the numbers and then you cut into the inflated numbers, which is not really what you call budget cutting. Safe to assume that you're going to override the tax levy by vote because you haven't made enough cuts to get under the 2%. There are a lot of areas that you could get under the 2% quite easily. One of the areas is, no offense to you, Jim, but I think it's time you take a look at your attorneys. I don't think you need 2 attorneys. And the attorneys, when you do hire them, I think they should be hired on a contract basis where they don't get retirement and health insurance and what have you.
I don't get health
It'd
insurance,
be a
that's true.
big saving.
Just so you know, as you probably did know.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Unless the fact didn't.
The other attorney does.
Yes, you did.
And then you take a look at some of your departments, the Town Development Corporation, you should get rid of completely and go to the county as it should have been way back when I was there. And I recommended that back then to you, Bernie, and you foresaw to have me removed from the committee, which is fine. But that has to go. You don't need to spend $2,200 for an audit, $7,000 for a bookkeeper in it, and then you got attorney's fees on top of that. It's a place, it's time to get rid of it. Let Gary Douglas and the Chamber of Commerce handle it, and the County Development Corporation, they have all the contacts, they do a good job. There's no reason to have a duplication of services other than credit taking or whatever you want to call it. The staffing is way over in your general fund. You've got 3 senior account clerks, a budget officer, a finance manager, a chief physical officer. I mean, come on. Big corporations don't have that kind of head staffing, supposedly. And even with all of that, we still can't get a decent audit out of this town. So I think you guys can do your homework and get underneath the 2% budget as far as I'm concerned.
One of the things I'm personally going to avoid tonight, as I have every time, is our purpose in a public hearing is to hear from you, and that's what we should do. We have to be careful that it's not at the expense of not responding, but this isn't a forum in that nature, it's a public hearing. But there are some things, as Mr. Coffey corrected an implication that he takes benefits, that we really need to respond to. And, we may need to do that as the evening goes on. And certainly, John, you're entitled to your views and opinions, as everybody is, in how to structure and manage a budget and what is valuable and what isn't. There are some things that by law I also wish we didn't have to do, but we have no choice. But the idea that we inflated the budget for the purpose of cutting it, I'll just comment to that, you know. Ms. Blake.
I'd like to begin by saying that the 2014 tentative budget was the most irresponsible budget I've ever seen. It's apparent that it was a straw man from which the town board could hack a bunch of excess to form a still bloated 2014 preliminary budget, for which taxpayers are supposed to be thankful. Instead of scaring the elderly, infirm, and struggling taxpayers half to death with a 2014 tentative budget, the town board should have chosen to do a responsible thing and instructed department heads that the town was going to stay under the New York State property tax cap and to start looking for ways to make that happen. In fact, the place to start should have been a tentative budget which looked more like the 2014 preliminary budget. During budget workshops, reductions to the increase in spending were made and the results were handed out like manna from heaven. But before the ink was dry on the press Republican article announcing the reductions to the increase in spending, the numbers had changed, as if the belt-tightening they represented was getting in the way of enjoying dessert at Tooten-Tellum. The budget had increased again. Expenditures were initially reduced were reinstated, and I believe there's room in the 2014 preliminary budget for real cuts, enough to stay under the tax cap. One budget area that deserves particular attention is the Consolidated Lighting District. In September 2012, Mr. Lemoy gave his expert lighting presentation. At that time, he told us that the Consolidated Lighting District was going to save taxpayers boatloads of tax dollars. He said beginning on the 1st of January 2013, the ad valorem tax rate would be 11 cents per thousand, and that the 11-cent rate was destined to go down to 7.5% by 2025 or even earlier. Of course, the 11-cent rate never materialized. Instead, the January 1st, 2013 tax rate was 15 cents per thousand, 40% above projections, notwithstanding a substantial increase in assessed valuation in the lighting district, which netted many taxpayers who are now paying for but have no street light service. On top of that, in 2014, the rate is going up to 16.3 cents per thousand, or 45.7% over projections. Given this trend, I'm not looking forward to 2025. Then came the $50,000 bucket truck, actual cost close to 90 grand, an 80% increase over projections. Mr. Lemoy said that the 2014 cost projection for ownership of the lights was to be $202,000, which was inclusive of the 5% increase above actual costs, an increase Mr. Lemoy assured us would never happen. According to the 2014 preliminary budget, the cost is $281,836, or about $80,000 more than projected. That's 39.5% above projected costs. And of course, we can't forget the real reason that the Consolidated Lighting District was formed in the first place, to find a way to use the $350,000 fund balances in the pre-existing lighting districts. The new Consolidated Lighting District allowed the town to shift salary and benefit costs from the general fund onto the lighting district, thereby leaving more money in the general fund to spend. According to Mr. Lemoy, That cost shift would be a total of $30,000 annually, which was all inclusive of salaries and benefits. In the 2014 preliminary budget, salaries and benefits total $54,000, or $24,000 above projections, an 80% increase. This is a perfect example of the town's out of control spending.
I guess, again, it really begs a lot of comments, but without all the numbers and the budgets in front of me and your cameras going, it's a little bit dangerous. One of the things we discovered in working the budgets and doing some comparisons, in fact, I had a situation yesterday where we had some disgruntled employees who are feeling some pressure from a zero increase, changes in insurance, cuts, layoffs, etc. And the message was that at the same time, of course, for some reason, this is my budget that I cook, I gave our finance manager a $12,000 raise, and they were irate, which I told some individuals, I would have expected you to come racing into my office with that. Unfortunately, what they did is, in looking at the budget, they saw a $12,000 difference, and the reason for that was a retirement payment that wasn't placed in that category that should have been. But if you look at the surface, there was a $12,000 difference, and if you want to jump to conclusions, of course, it would be done as salary. Sometimes how we interpret and use the data borders on some combination of both irresponsible and voodoo math. I don't know. What I can say, and Paul worked very hard on the lighting, and the end result, we have goals. The mantra previous years was we have to stay under the cap. The expectation this year was that we would. The lighting district, in the end, does save the town money by giving us ownership. We had to spend a little to get there. We will save money. It's a significant. Will we save everything we had hoped? Maybe not, maybe more. That time will tell. It was a good decision. There's nothing I know now that I wouldn't do. Sometimes people forget we also live in the town, we also pay the bills and also eat the budgets. It's not like we have some game here where we just want to manipulate things. The stuff on the budget I've explained many times to people in-house. How did this happen? How could we get here as fast as we did? Because there's a lot of sensitivity. There was one message got out that somebody thought it was conjured up to, because it was a negotiations year, to try and control expectations and negotiated agreements, which of course was totally false. We knew there were some issues. We knew we were on a track that wasn't good. In fact, Ms. Blake, I think you were telling us or some of your friends that just a few months ago we had $6 million we should give away, even though we tried to explain we really don't. And the reality is now...
Don't put words in my mouth, I never said that.
The reality is now, words I think you did say, we don't have a balance in our budget, and we do need it. One of the complications that hit us this year is the comptroller's fiscal stress, where we too have been doing anything we can to stay under, and we did. But with the cap, and you'll notice this year more than ever, a significant number of counties and towns are doing overrides, because as the comptroller even indicated through webinars that we participated in, the probability of continuing to do that is near zero. In a $15 million budget, we could raise about $110,000. That doesn't buy a truck. The tentative budget was done in the same process we always have. We spent, and I kind of personally have a problem with instructing our department heads to cut. We spent a great deal of time in department head meetings with them. The finance manager individually went to them. We gave them graphs, charts, some information that was shared within work sessions too, and let them know it was going to be a tough year. I'll say personally, had I known the tentative budget was going to come out the way it did, when we had our back against the wall and legally it had to go, we didn't know it was going to be that bad until the numbers went in. I would have started sooner. So we would have not had that headline, which has caused a great deal of angst. But the department heads were instructed. I can't say they did or didn't take us serious, but I wouldn't expect too many of them to come in and offer up to close programs, charge more, cut staff, et cetera, voluntarily. It's sometimes the thing you have to do. When we put the numbers in the budget and saw where it was, we knew we had a problem then. And that's why even then I began to say, I don't know if we can get this thing under. But there was huge effort in communicating prior. And the tentative budget was, quite honestly, what the numbers came out to be. This wouldn't have been the year to try and create something that looked ugly just so we could reduce it a little and get away with more. It just didn't happen. But again, everybody's entitled to their views and opinions. Mr. Metz, I think, signed in next.
Thank you. Let me address this from the revenue side rather than the expense side. I would go along and say there might be some more things that we could cut, or you could cut. But the budget, as I understand it, in the preliminary budget, using the figures that you gave out before, we're $393,000 over cap at the present time. And that looks like a lot, because there's probably not another $393,000 in the budget that we can cut out from expenses. But we've ignored in the discussion the potential for revenues that are already there. Now, in the discussions and items that were leading up to the preliminary budget, there was identified $360,000 of unlisted sales tax revenue, projected sales tax revenue in next year's budget. A chunk of that has already come over and is now being used. But that leaves us, leaves you with $36,000 of unlisted sales tax revenue in the next year. And you add that to the $21,000 of unlisted sales tax revenue in this year, we've got $57,000 of unlisted revenue. That's not going to solve the problem, but it's a start. Add to that the fact that over the last 4 years, the town's appropriations have come in $200,000 to $400,000 under budget. It seems that around the July timeframe for the comptroller stress test, the projections were somewhere close to $300,000 for this year to be under, give or take. That's unspent money that we already have, that you have, taxpayers have already put into the coffers, either through sales tax, property tax, or fees. Somewhere that's out there in the budget to fall out at the end of the year. Now, at the end of the year, help me out here, if I give you a $100 bill and you spend 80 of it, where does that extra $20 go? Does it disappear into thin air, or can we use it? Okay, Bill.
Some things are bipartisan, John.
Anyway, so there's some $20 bills laying around out there that you need to get back from your wife, and use that toward the next year. Now, that isn't going to do all $393,000. I have been made aware, we just lost Jim. As I understand it, there is a court judgment in the town and the taxpayers' favor of some $26,000. that we have not collected yet. If it's out there, it's money, it belongs to us, let's see about collecting it. It may or may not be there, but I heard that it was.
If you heard it, it must be true.
It's in the audit.
It's in the audit, okay, thank you.
You're maybe referencing money due the town through, by the fire
That's
department.
it.
That has already been addressed.
That's it.
Is it in?
No, it will be in 2014.
But
Okay.
the revenue's already been booked on that.
So it's built into the budget as it stands?
No,
Okay.
no.
No?
It's already been put into our financial statements because we knew we were getting the money, so we booked it as a receivable and revenue at that point.
It's not money out there.
It's already booked.
It's money coming in, but the revenue has already been booked.
Okay, so it's in the revenues for next year already.
We haven't received the funds.
Receivables. We haven't received half of the revenues for next year anyway. It's receivable. But it's in the budget.
No,
It's not in the
you're
budget.
not understanding. Bill, do you understand a
Well-
receivable?
Well, it's like the sales tax. I mean, you haven't received the sales tax yet, but you know you're gonna get it.
No, but this comes from a prior year. So in that year, we
Yeah.
booked the
get
receivable
booked
and
to
the
the year.
revenue at that time.
So the revenue's in 2013?
No,
14.
Or,
what was it, 2009 this happened? 2009 this happened, so we booked the revenue, we've been carrying the receivable.
all right.
Okay,
Finally, they're gonna pay it.
okay.
Money
So that's not necessarily there. That still leaves me about $40,000 short of the
You're
tax
short more
cap.
than 40,000, but I'm hesitating to interrupt you until you're done. And I'm going to defer to Pat a little because we've had this discussion. The numbers are real numbers, but they don't exist as you're indicating.
The 57 exists. It's unlisted. It's not listed in the preliminary budget. It's money you have, it may be booked. $300,000 of unspent, give or take. And you got a $300,000 tax bonus coming at the end of the year. Maybe not all of that is there, but there's enough to cover 400,000 and still leave you with 240 plus. To go in the fund balance. Gentlemen, I think there's room to make this thing work without going over the 2% tax cap.
I'm going to make and I really hesitate to put Pat on the spot, but I am because he better understands the numbers and we've had this conversation. The general statement I'm going to make, and I'm really not soliciting a response at all, and I'll go back to John's comments about all this expertise and staff we have here. We have a budget officer who has done this through a career and has done it quite well. We have expertise, professionally trained and experienced in government finances. And again, I'll say residents who, if I only were a selfish person, I would not want to give myself a bill that I didn't need if the money's around the corner, because why wouldn't I do it? There's absolutely no gain, no value, no benefit. It's totally illogical unless I lived out of the town and didn't care or owned property in the town would happen. So I mean, there's a bit of logic that's really lacking there for all those reasons. But Pat, this looks like something Mr. Metz had in the paper, and I asked you to help me with a little clarity, and you did so very quickly. If you might just give it a minute.
The thing that concerns me is you have to look at what our revenues and expenditures are gonna be for this year. Because hypothetically, a budget is an estimate. We're looking at estimates for last year, we're looking at estimates for next year when we're doing the budget. What we actually come in may vary widely based on what has happened throughout the year, because a lot of times we can't predict the future of what's gonna happen, so. We may have a flood that happens that takes more appropriations than we had budgeted for. We may have revenues that don't come in as projected, so we may be down on that, or our revenues may not match our expenditures. We may not have enough revenues that match our expenditures, which is gonna drive our fund balance down, which means we can't appropriate fund balance, which last year we appropriated a lot of fund balance, and we're not doing that this year. I don't know if that helps you at all. I think if we keep continuing appropriating fund balance, our fiscal health is gonna go down even worse, and we will have the controller's office here.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go down the list, and as I've done before, I know, John, you wanna say something, I'll certainly give you a chance to, that's what public hearings are supposed to be. But next on the list was David Culver.
All I can say, gentlemen, is that's an extremely high increase, 16%. And the other thing is, the assessor was around a month ago. Are we gonna get double hit again? Are we gonna get reassessed on our property, our homes, and then get a 16% on top of that? Can you answer that question now, or?
I don't know where the assessor's, what his plan is. I mean, he's always trying to keep everybody at 100%. I don't know what his target
Are
or
we
if they're.
assessed now at 100%?
We have been each year, but the reality is you can't look at over 5,000 properties every year either.
No, but it's been, I know it's been a while since he's been around.
If it's been a while, then you might be due.
Are we all gonna get a big shock? That's what I'm asking.
Everybody doesn't get reassessed every year. You just mentioned it's been a while since he's been around, so it's been a while since you've been done. Property values are doing fairly well around here. Yours may be up, it may not. I certainly can't respond to that. The 16%, what we're looking at currently is an increase in the highway tax from 72 cents to 98 something, 99, which on $150,000 assessed property is less than $4 a month, roughly, all rough. And still keeps that rate, quite a bit below our neighbors, but increase is an increase.
Right.
Again, I own
Pretty
property
good
too.
increase. I wish I could get 16%.
I hear you. I wish we didn't have to
I don't
do it.
doubt anybody in this room got a 16% raise. Anybody?
0 for 3 years.
It's a lot of money.
Jennifer,
Yes, it's pretty simple. The town needs to live within their means. Stop spending money you don't have. Your budgeters don't know what they're doing if they can't do a better job than this.
Todd, Griffin,
Every month, I do a budget. Every month for my expenses. I don't live in an elaborate home. I don't drive elaborate cars. I make a decent amount of money. All right? I'm not just concerned about me. I'm concerned about the 90-year-old lady that lives next to me, the 87-year-old lady that lives across from me, and the 78-year-old woman that lives on the side of me. I went to your houses.
All week we did.
I handed out flyers. I handed out over 200. And in this cold, it took some time. I'm appalled that these people have written you guys a blank check. All right? I save the money that I don't use every month. Yes, I understand that a fund balance isn't the best thing to show to an auditor, because they're going to tell you you don't need that money, but you actually do because you're living on it. All right? Where I'm at with it is you guys have to start doing a better job. You're elected officials. Eventually people are going to come in. They're going to fill the room. There will be people here, eventually. All right? I could say, well, I was going to come in here today. I've got a whole thing written down, and I was going to use it. There's a lot of intelligent people. I've heard from 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe 11, 12 in here. They're all well aware of what's going on, all right? Twice today, you guys have manipulated other people's words and used them against them. I know it was done. A guy I work with just already talked to you. All right? No big deal. I'm for every one of us, but I have to look out for myself. Detroit, bankrupt. Why? People left. People couldn't afford it. Now they have hired their own security forces to watch their homes, their land. It's gonna happen. City. Drive down every road in the city. 7, 8 homes. Them people aren't getting assessed value. They're not getting the $352,000 on Tafagla or the 289 on Sandra. I mean, look at Kimberly Ave. They're not getting their assessed values on their homes. People are laughing at them. People are going to start moving. There's nothing here. You guys can court all these big cities, towns, all these corporations and try to get them on your development. I commend you for that. But you're doing it on the expense of us as taxpayers. You're doing it on the expense of my 80-year-old neighbor, my 87-year-old neighbor, my 77-year-old neighbor, me. I'm going to go on vacation. I have a fund balance. They don't. You guys can raise my assessment. I'll sell my house. I can go anywhere in the state of New York. I feel like it. All right? I choose to live here because I happen to like it. But you guys aren't making it easy on everybody. You're elected officials. Bernie. You know, I thought over the last few years you've done a great job. I realize it's a year that you have contracts. I'm sorry you guys had the death in the family. All right? I feel really bad for that family. My heart goes out to them. I realize that somewhere along the lines in there, you had to pay out. If I died in the line of duty, or if I died while I was in play with New York State, I get 3 times my salary. I know that's paid off by an insurance fund. All right? I'm sure you had to use some of the money for that. The last meeting, I commend you guys for tabling it till the 1st, because you're not sure how much sales tax revenue you're going to get. I commend you. All right? But you should already have that money. You're paying the S3 salary already. You got S4 salary. You got 2 months left of the year. What's that? Let's even say the guy makes $65,000. He's going to get a raise of $600 a month. $600 a paycheck. $1,200 a month. $2,400. I'm just giving that as a general number. $1,200. You got to borrow that from next year's sales tax to give the guy a raise. You're already paying his medical benefits. You're already paying his dental, eyeglass, whatever you guys get. All right? I mean, that's it. That's an example. You know, I'm going to start coming to these meetings. I'm going to start listening to you guys more. You move numbers around. You've inflated numbers. You took some numbers that were really good numbers and you've decreased them. All right? And I'm not going to sit here and say you increased them, decreased them, because there are some smarter people here than me. All right? They deal with us every day, day in and day out. The bottom line is, you guys are elected officials. All right? Elected officials. And you have to start working for us, or they're going to show up and they're going to do the right thing. That's all I have.
John, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, just by virtue of your own words a few minutes ago, Bernie, you said that, you know, the budget officer was, you know, certainly doing a great job and everything, and so And by virtue of that, I agree 100% that the budget officer always has, ever since I've been here, the same person has been doing it, and she has done a great job. But along comes the finance manager that you didn't need. I mean, if she was gonna retire, fine, get somebody in, but not if they're already experienced in government and accounting procedures and what have you. You don't need to bring them in here for 3 years of training at $100,000. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do it in your own business. Why do you do it here?
Okay, anyone else have?
Yeah, I wasn't on the list, but, you know, to me, this all goes back to July 8th, that meeting on July 8th, the first fiscal stress meeting, the meeting when Bernie, I first heard you say that the highway department should be self-sufficient and increase those taxes, $1.5 million. But on the fiscal stress test, really the only negative for the town is the lack of fund balances in general and highway. We've got good crash ratios everywhere, we've got low debt, we've got great fund balances in all the other categories. But even with the bad shape we are in with the fund balance in general and highway, we're still way below the bottom threshold of distress. 34% this year, you know, forecast to be 40% next year. Well, the bottom threshold for distress is 45%. You know, but that stress test is kind of what's driven this whole thing. And I think that was the night you decided to raise taxes 1.5 million. You know, and as a result of that stress test, you know, what you guys decided to increase spending and increase taxes, 1.5 million bucks. That was your solution to it. And that was the tentative budget that John and Debbie both said was horrible, and it was. You know, it was terrible. But you didn't get away with it because we had that public hearing and you got clear that the people wouldn't stand for that. Couldn't stand for that. You know, and so you did the right thing. You went out and you cut $834,000 in spending. That was great. It was. There were some tough cuts in there, John. There's probably some more that can be done. But you also put in $324,000 of the sales tax money that you were hiding or not reporting before. That was good. You should put it all in there. You should put the other $36,000 in there that the county says we're gonna get next year, because we will get it. And that's $36,000 of tax increase if you don't list it as sales tax revenue. You know, so I think you did good cutting. You did good putting that sales tax in there, but it's just not enough yet. You've got to get down. You've got to get and not exceed this tax cap. If you have to, you know, Tom and I have been kicking around those numbers, and really, if those numbers aren't like the 300,000 tax bonus, they've got it. I think you already booked it for this year, and you've got it in the fund balance for this year. Because your numbers from that night of the stress test, you projected out the year, and Tom's right about 300,000 from general and highway unspent from the budget this year. However, and also the 300,000 is in there, I think is revenue in 2013, but you've got it in the fund balance, and so you're listing, you know, from July, from this, you know, that page, that color page, you know, you were listing 320,000 general fund balance at that time, for the end of the year projected, and $764,000 highway fund balance at the end of this year. What I'm saying is you've got to be under the cap, and so those money, there's probably $1 million of fund balance there. Use it like you've used it the last few years. You know, hopefully, finally, you've got the budget spending under control with the cuts you've made now. Do one more year of your deficit spending, keep it under the cap. We know we're going to get more sales tax money in next year. And your stress test isn't going to be any worse this year than last year. You know, it's the same fund balance, basically. You know, you don't have to worry about that stress test. The fiscal stress thing from the state is a brand new thing. They're still working out the kinks on it. They don't even know how it works. But in any case, you're way below the bottom threshold of that stress. So the stress is for the town taxpayers. having to pay this additional tax. They can't take it, they won't take it. So you've got to do what you can, really, to stay under the tax cap.
I'll agree with you on 2 points, Bill. With hindsight, I don't think I would make the same comment about the highway department, at least publicly. Maybe internally, seeing sales tax dependency in that department where we don't have a lot of flexibility with the job we need to do for public safety, and a lot of other reasons. But it really didn't represent my motive. They might have been the wrong words. They've really been messed up. So I'll agree with you on that one, without doubt. I'll agree with you. You used the word that we could deficit spend another year. Yeah, I think we were deficit spending, and we maybe could another year, and maybe it would have been politically a different environment if we had. But we chose not to. We recognized we were going a bad direction rapidly because of deficit spending. And the fiscal stress monitoring, your view on that is one I don't share, and I don't share because I've talked with specifically our regional rep with the comptroller's office, information I've gotten, webinars we've participated in. I don't take it lightly at all. What I've been told is if local boards can't respond to that, the state will come in and do a variety of things, none of which are very pleasant or very pretty. I wouldn't call that a first-year blow-off program by any means, and I'm not done. And you know, the other thing about how well we did on that, there were 3 indicators, and I don't have the documents in front of me. I didn't prepare to respond to your question that maybe you did prepare. The third one about fund balance, we were rubbing our head on the ceiling of that. It was very, very close, and there's no doubt in my mind we would trigger that if we continue doing what we're doing. The other 2 indicators, we were golden, and as a result of the composite score, we did okay. But when you break it down, that one indicator, and I don't remember the number, but it was something in the 40s, we were right there. And that's where we don't want to be. We need to be fiscally sound, and a lot of things a lot of people are indicating are really how we've tried to look at this budget and look at ways to both be fiscally sound and sustainable, responsible, meet all the requirements, fulfill all of the obligations we have, and get functioning in the black, because some of the concerns of things that happened in Detroit and whatnot can happen on a small scale. We don't want that to happen. We want to keep the community growing. We want to attract business. We want to have, you know, roads that are appropriate and be able to sustain that. And a lot of the decisions for this year were based on that. I don't know. We haven't put the numbers together that way, but I strongly suspect had we tried to do anything, literally anything, to just stand to the cat because that would have been the right thing to do. And remember, we're talking total, the highway tax going up, the amount mentioned, we would have then in 2014 had an absolute nightmare. And if we had had any fiscal issues of revenue that didn't come in on anticipated expenses, in fact, it's going to be tight now, barring many things that can happen, everything from lawsuits on through. We're going to hold our breath for a year. Had we done more deficit spending and not worried about any fund balance, we would have been in deep trouble. We were much closer. If you ever want to see that number, I'll be more than glad to show you. If I'm wrong, I'll be more than glad to thank you. But my conversations with the comptroller's office indicated not only is it serious, we were seriously close. Anyone else?
Yes, I would just like to point out that I think Mr. Gribvig was talking about some papers that the finance manager handed out at a meeting here, and one of them was a multicolored sheet.
Yes.
That, many of the entries were incorrect on that.
Well, there might have been entries that are different, but at the time that was done, it generated the data that we had. The more you
Yeah,
keep working with it, you find,
But I
you know,
think
you
that if
change.
the correct figures were put in, you may find different results, you would find different results. And I spoke with the finance manager about that, and he said it was because the program was squirrely.
That's not what I said, Beth. Please don't put words in my mouth.
You said
I said what had happened is the program got corrupted.
corrupted, excuse me,
Okay?
corrupted.
Just the totals lines, I think, it was the,
We deal with various
Not just the
versions
totals
of
line.
Windows. And
Not just the totals line.
You move them from one computer to another, they got corrupted.
Okay. Well,
But, so I'm not, you know, they may, in the end, it may still have the same data. I'm just saying that there were incorrect entries
okay,
by year,
yep, all right.
so.
Anyone else like to address this?
I got one more.
Yep.
You know, you guys need more money, light bulbs burn out. Tires blow out on trucks. Sand and salt go up every year. You guys reuse some of it. Proud of that, all right? Stuff breaks. If you need more money, most of the people in this town don't mind a 1 or 2, 3 over the cap. But don't piss everybody off with a 47%. And don't bring back that 17%. People don't want to hear that. People on fixed incomes don't want to hear that. You know? From the start of this, I don't know what you guys are going to do. You guys are going to vote on it. We don't have a say to vote on it. All right? It's probably a good thing, because we got some radical people.
We met
All
some
right.
people this week that were not
And-
happy.
We're not here.
I met some radical people, and that was a word that was used when we had our discussion. You know, 2-3% this year, a couple of years from now, 2-3 more over the cap. You know, get it to where we got a sound physical town. But when people see a new vehicle with a town sticker on it, I mean, I know pumps are down there blow out. I know you guys have to do what you have to do. But do what's right for the taxpayers, the businesses, the people that want to come here. You guys have done so much to get people to come here. I just opened a paper. I'm not a Canadian firm, I'm an American firm. I said, holy shit, 24%? I'm scared to death of New York State already, I ain't coming there. We're driving our own businesses away. We're outsourcing the flu vaccine to wherever, overseas. We don't even make that in our own country anymore. Right? Do what's right.
Percentages
2-3%
are
over.
real killer, and I totally agree with you. Those messages are not good. We had we raised the dog license from $7 to $14 a year. It hadn't been changed in many years, and I mean, it's a very legitimate argument that we need to incrementally keep up with inflation versus, you know, suppress things that all of a sudden take the ceiling off. It's good logic. Percentages though are really emotional numbers. We raised the dog license from $7 to $14. The complaint by a couple of people was that, you know, we had doubled it, 100% increase. They got hung up on this 100% versus it's $7 a year on something that hadn't changed in a lot of years. I share your concern that the percentage will scare people, but what it represents in real dollars, as I said, in a $150,000 home, a $4 increase that we're hoping, you know, $4 a month, less than $4 a month, we're hoping solves the problem once and for all. If you asked, if the paper I put, you know, the average home is going to be paying something less than $4 a month, there wouldn't have been a scream. When you put in, you know, those percentages, Me too. It's sort of like the man with the dog license, 100% increase, all of $7 a year. I understand what you're saying, and it is emotion. But we've had to deal with that, and we are, and as I said before, if only for selfish reasons, if we can find numbers to stay under the cap, I would have done it much, much, much sooner. We worked hard to get where we are. But, you know, I appreciate the comments and the feedback, and there were a couple of comments, you know, people realized we made some tough cuts in there. We did, because we knew we had to. But not just because of the screen, because the increase was simply way too much. I'm talking, I'm supposed to be listening. Did anyone else want to make a comment on the budget during this public hearing?
I'll just reiterate that I think going over the tax cap is unnecessary. You have the tax cap capability to raise additional funds. The town's assessment rolls have grown about 5, almost 6%. So without raising any tax rates, you have about 5 to 6% more revenue coming in on the existing tax rates. Everything's going up. So you're getting even more just off of that.
If that
That
were the
needs
case,
to be
Tom,
figured in.
If that were the case, why would I raise it? Why would I? I mean, this is a board action, but I'll take it. I'm the focus here. Why would I raise it if that's the case?
I don't know
Give me
what,
one logical reason, especially this year. Why would I do it?
because you want more money to
For
work
what?
with.
To do what with?
I have no idea what
Neither
your
do I.
plan is.
Neither do I. Anyone else have a comment?
It's 1.66% of the cap
Yes?
this year, and 16% is not of the taxes, it's of 1.66%, which is 1/4 of 1%. About 1/4 of 1%. It's the amount of money, and the percentages can be played any way you want to play them. And they chose to put that in the paper as 16, 17% instead of $4 or something, $4, a little bit more than $4 a month. That's on a $150,000 home, so while it may be going over the cap, it's going over for a necessary reason to make sure that the future of the town is solid. And I don't believe it's that great of an increase when you're talking about the actual amount of money.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, John?
Bernie, I'd just like to say that, you know, the thing that bothers me is you haven't done, since the Moffett Water District, you haven't done any water or any sewer districts in the whole town.
Expansion are you referring to?
Expansion, right.
That's a good thing.
And that's what brings everything into this town, and that's what made it grow over the years.
John, do you remember why all those expansions happened? What was used to make that happen?
Well, we did the Tom Miller.
I know we did, but what did we use to make that happen?
What did we use?
Right.
We used grant money sometimes.
CDBG grants, correct.
Right.
We can no longer, we don't have those income eligible pockets like we did. Those are income eligible pockets that enabled us to do that.
Well,
And if you're sitting there telling me to cut, and now you're telling me to expand, I'm not sure which I should
no,
do.
what I'm telling you is, you're budgeting and hiring, this place has become a jobs market, let's
That's not
face
true.
it. And you're not doing anything with the infrastructure. I sit up there in Kittyville, look out my living room window at a rusty old, water tower up there. I mean, the bolts on that thing are so rusty, you'd have to have torques to cut them off. I mean, that's sad that
There's a lot of
you're not doing
infrastructure, yeah.
anything to maintain anything and what have you. But we got $825 mats out here with logos on them. We got a beautiful landscaping all around the building. I mean, it's one thing to spend on what's necessary, that's good.
Okay.
But we can't afford just what's nice.
Yeah, you had me at hello on that, but we will disagree on what we're affording. Anyone else have a comment for the public hearing? If not, yes.
Yeah, it's hard to follow the different funds and everything. You've mentioned that if
Very
we
hard.
stay under the cap, we can raise taxes $110,000. Now, is that over the entire tax levy or just the highway tax? And I'm not sure what it is, but I'm looking over these numbers, you know, apparently we are at 392,000 over the cap now. But in the preliminary budget, there was an increase in base water and base sewer, 300,000. Now, you know, probably no one cares about that because we might not be in that assessment district where we have to pay for that. But that's part of the tax increase, yes? Is that correct?
It's levy townwide.
Townwide levy.
Townwide levy.
You take all your
No,
funds.
the base is a separate district.
Well, I would suggest that
Basis.
if based on tonight, you still feel you have to go to the cap, I think you ought to look at some of the maybe consolidated water. More taxpayers are in that than sewer or other district. You've got huge fund balances in consolidated water, so maybe you can reduce, you know, taxes in some districts. And it's, you know, in the water, consolidated water, to bring it down, the overall down.
Well, we looked at that, obviously, because there's some money over there, and you know we can't transfer money between departments. And it really gets back to what John's saying, we're trying to build some capital because of the infrastructure that is, our water director did a presentation at one of the work sessions, you were here, that guesstimated $10 million that needed to be done. Of lift station, water towers, and let alone we need a new water tower on the south end. I mean, the Schluter fire begged that question. So, you know, the long-term goal that we're trying, I think it came up relative to savings earlier, is to try and build the funds so we don't always have to go bond and borrow every time we buy a truck. I know day one when I came on this board, I heard Tom Wood talk about his frustration with, we're always floating a bond to buy, you know, big equipment. Why don't we save the money, skip that year, and pay for it, and not have to do the bonds and the interest? And he was right. And that's part of what that's there for. So, you know, we look at the whole budget, and then you get into the departments and what they need and want, et cetera, et cetera. One of the positions that I know John's real concerned, thinks we're an employment agency, we added to the court clerks. And we added a clerk because we discovered the courts were miserably behind in their paperwork and collecting fines, et cetera, et cetera. And that was one of the positions we had some discussion about cutting. And our judges were just, you know, do what you got to do, but it's going to cost you. You're going to lose grounds again because we don't have the human resource to keep up with the flow. The number of cases down there, I didn't know. And the good news is I didn't have a reason to be in court in the town of Plattsburgh, so I didn't know. But I've had the judges say they're going to have 300 cases open a night. And it isn't just chicken thieves and speeders. They're dealing with, you know, court cases, et cetera. It's a massive flow. I think in the state of New York we're number, I want to say 72 or 42. I know there's a big difference. 43. We're ranked in the state of New York. It's amazing. So, you know, you do that, and we had those conversations with each department trying to beg, borrow, and steal money for the common good. And it just doesn't always work. You know, it looks logical, but it doesn't always work that way. Again, if we could, I would, and I know they would. But, I mean, it's a good point, and it needs to be said so we can respond to it. Yes?
Could I ask a question? Is not the water tower in Cadyville slated for repair this year? Is that not one of the projects?
I don't know if Cadyville is. There's a capital project on the wells, as you know. I don't know for sure if that one is. It could be.
Or is it the big blue one?
I don't know if anybody knows. Oh, that, the big dirty blue?
The ones where there's three in one place because it was.
I don't know why, but I
I
thought
don't know
that
if
was.
anybody on the committee's got any.
We were gonna, Cadyville was one of the ones we need to look at, but I think we were first gonna try to concentrate on the ones where we could get three in one spot at once for less money.
East Morrisonville, they've had some
And we thought
concerns
maybe
with the integrity of the
since we
tanks.
set up and bringing all this equipment and stuff
Do
here,
once.
if we could set up the equipment there and they could get, you know, 3 towers done.
Because I thought Scott
Which I think he
said-
wants to do in
I thought Scott
14.
said that was the worst one.
I think he did indicate that, yes. But again, even projects like that are gonna be subject to how
Yeah, indeed.
stuff progresses.
No, 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 I
I mean, we get the disaster of the day and
Borrowing,
we're in trouble.
borrowing today and bonding, years ago, water and sewer was bonded in this
Yep.
town, and that's the way it was all developed. It
We've
was
got some
bonded.
0% loans, which are
And
really
I
good.
was gonna say, right now, with the amount of money, to borrow money, is gonna be a lot cheaper and fix your infrastructure and what
Yep.
have you, instead of letting it deteriorate, the worse it gets.
But you still have to pay it back, it still becomes, you're right, and we're going to. But you still have to pay it back as liability. Right now, we have, I think, 4 or 5 bonds that close out in 2017. So if we can get those off the books, that expense will really enable us to do a much larger attack on some of the infrastructure. And, I mean, now 2017 is not that far away, so if we can hold on, it'll be, those paid go on the news. So
And
I think
water
we'll
and
have that
sewer has
conversation.
about $7 million.
Water sewer is the rich kid on the block. I don't
Exactly,
think
they got
have
all the money.
I don't think they have 7, it might be closer to 4, but
Is
they,
it
they,
that-
they have all the money.
They got all the money.
They've
Can't do
got-
anything with it.
They've got some reserves that
Exactly.
are targeted for these
those-
capital projects. And we have to do those capital projects. We can't, we can't take the money and use the money, to lower a rate than it is. I mean, you physically could do that, but that would be totally irresponsible. We have to recognize that we got a 50-year-old infrastructure. And we have to address that infrastructure. And that's, it's really important that we come up with a systematic plan to do that. And believe me, that money is all targeted.
I'm sure.
Anyone else? If not, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, a second. Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Art Panic,
Yes.
Paul LeMoy,
Yes.
Gerard Remmers.
Yes.
And Bassett.
Yes, we will stand closed at 8:32. Back in the draft resolutions, a couple things I want to share, a couple of items I really need feedback and input. The award for the generator, you've got a draft. We're not sure where that's going yet. I spoke with Mr. Stoddard today, and we can do the low bid. The next bidder is very close, and we want to be sure that, we're talking $1,700. We want to be sure that we're getting the best value. We have the best value policy now. So they're doing a real comparison, and something else has surfaced with that too that, we're going to need to look at. So that's going to be subject to change. I just want everybody to be aware of that right away. You've got some reports. We had a department head meeting this morning, and again, the codes and zoning folks mentioned how really busy they are. There's stuff happening. They're getting projects now, the usual race to get things closed, but there's projects coming in. And they're getting a lot of queries about property, et cetera. And it seems the Tom Miller Road's getting even hotter. People wanting to get in before it expands and the property gets too expensive. So that could be good for us budget-wise, but it also creates some other issues. You've got, again, the reports. I'm not going to dwell on them. We have some capital projects that we're closing that will be both important to an audit perspective as well as cleaning those accounts, freeing up some of those funds, putting some of those balances back in. So take a look at those, please. Tom had a question today on the water sewer admin, and we went through that. There's interest we've been receiving on a EFC grant that wasn't counted in the budget, which is why this first one shows the increased revenue and increased appropriation. Diane also popped an email out. I got it late today. We need to look at that. There's some leftover funds from the closure of the Cumberland Head wastewater treatment plant, and we need to make sure the accounts have all been paid. There may still be some bills outstanding we can use that funding for. General fund budget balance amendments, again, is some of the same things we do. JCEO, I looked at that one quickly. Tom again brought up there's an error in the first resolve. Deborah put this one together for me. My office has been an absolute zoo for a while. And what she did, and I don't disagree with her, she wanted to memorialize the request of $20,329 that we, I sent a letter back to Bruce Garcia that we, due to budget issues, we were only going to fund it at last year's level, this year's level. So that's why that's there. We did contact them. We have got their agreement. We just got that today, I think. And they do acknowledge that they're going to be getting less money and they're just going to have to deal with it. So I didn't get a formal response, but I have two others that I really need feedback. I think you got a resolution from Mel Defiant concerning park signs for the tees. There's some miscommunication there. She came in and talked to me about that relative to the spending freezes and essential only. They apparently have the post up for the tees and the disc golf, and they just have to put the signs in. And as you know, the disc golf gets played not 12 months a year, but it does get played in wintertime. And I think she's concerned with what's happening with cutting some staff and making some changes. That she is able to have the signs made at a cost of $300, and she noted in her letter to go buy them would be $720, whatever. She'd like to get those made now. The crew has more time now. It's the off-season from the sports activities versus wait until January. I didn't need a resolution. That's where miscommunication was. I don't need a resolution for a $300 expense. But I wanted to get the information from Mel because I don't want to go through this and have it kicked back, etc. My view is it's a good expense to get that done now versus in 3 months. It may be a little more difficult, and they'll be available through the fall, winter, spring season. But I want to get some feedback before I green light it. Anybody have any comments?
Well, I think the nature of our spending, I don't know if I'll use the word spending freeze, because that may be expressing it stronger than it should be, but what we've said is all expenditures are subject to review.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And that's
I
why
think
this is
is a good example. This makes some sense, and I think it is going to save some money, and it is going to get it done. Whereas after the first of the year, the way the new budget looks, there'll be a drop off in direct personal services within that department, and consequently, it would be a little more difficult to get it done. Somebody else is going to be doing some scheduling of workforces. But nevertheless, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Comfortable with it? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I've got another one that you don't have. It's the same kind of thing, but it's a different number, and will certainly trigger maybe a different discussion. We had in the budget, when we sat down with Mel, you may recall, I think it was $6,000 that was in for repairs, and we cut that down to, I want to say, $4,000. And what she commented on was that it would be the annual repairs for the John Deere, the mower. This year, she has spent very little on that. And that's what brought everybody's attention to it. I'm sure there wasn't even $1,000. It's a few hundred. Out of the $6,000 that was budgeted, that we cut to $4,000 for next year. what you have in front of you is what she's received as the parts for the routine maintenance of that mower that staff would do. For the same rationale with the cuts and the changes coming, and that it's a slower time now, she would like to do it now versus wait 2 months. But she said, if you want, we can wait 2 months and, we'll request that somebody do it. But this still leaves a significant balance, but it is a much bigger number, $835 for the record, 29 cents. We're gonna do it now, or we're probably gonna do it after the first of the year to get it ready for spring.
Her staff's gonna do this plus do the signs?
Yes. Now they can. They're not doing grounds and, the same needs out there. Yes.
Saves a significant amount of money in labor.
Well, you're gonna do it anyway in a couple months.
Exactly, and if we don't do it, we try to squeak out without doing routine maintenance on that machinery, we'll be buying new machinery, so.
That was $60,000, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want that baby to fall apart on me. The message I put out was non-essential. The maintenance is probably essential. It's not necessary now. We wanted to control the budget through this year, but it's kind of a shell game. And again, the rationale being we're going to lose staff. Her department may go through a radical change and a little concern of will it get done in a timely fashion. So.
Well, if we do it sooner or later, prices can only go up, so.
They don't go down.
I think we should order the materials. If we need to wait till after January 1 to pay the bill, we can do that. I mean, I don't think Mountain View's gonna take us off the books as a customer if we had to wait till January to pay the bill.
This is money that's already in the
It's already there.
2013 budget. It was $6,000, it was budgeted.
I understand. It's
So
also money
it's
that's
still gonna
in,
be- there's
it's
still gonna
also
be-
money that's in the 214 budget.
It's still gonna be a significant carryover. So,
We may, but by the time the parts are ordered, by the time they get here, by the time we get a bill, it may not be payable until
That's
after the
what I'm
first of the year.
saying.
So we could try to pull that off if possible. I need to, a little more consensus. I
Well,
concur with
If you get
that.
the parts, then they can work on it now while they got the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So, might as well do it.
All right, that sounds like a majority of, a consensus of opinion. The next one I have is the local law. The one you've got, Jim shared another version of that with me this evening, so that may change, but if that's something that's going to happen, it has to happen next week, Monday.
I was just gonna say that.
Monday.
Tomorrow or Monday.
Monday, in the right sequence. And the next draft you should have is an adoption of the 2014 budget, which has to happen Monday as well. So,
We already have those, you said?
yeah, you should have a draft of, no, you don't have a draft of that. I've got it here. Here is the budget one, I'm sorry, thank you.
I saw the first draft of the other one.
3. And I also have another one for you, just to make sure we're up to date. Again, these are, we're getting a little more conscientious about printing draft on some of these things because they do go through revisions after review. I mentioned earlier that I should give you an update on negotiations.
Any other reason for
So do we need, no, I guess we don't really take action on the
Preliminary?
preliminary
No.
budget. We just, it's
I
just,
argued with myself about that today for Debbie Wolf.
This is
we don't adopt it,
Just say it comes
That
upon-
has to be
Yeah.
done before
If
we
you
can
don't-
you would
adopt.
No, that, no.
yes,
Not the one
but the
we thought.
adoption is
No,
with the
you
final,
get
not
the
the
one I
continuation.
revised.
Okay.
No, no, oh, wait, I'm sorry. The
If
local
you do
law,
nothing,
that's as
it
is.
Which
becomes-
we did have to
If
adopt.
you do nothing, it becomes.
Oh, I thought he said that that was good.
No, no, the resolution passed.
Oh, the resolution.
Yeah.
Well, I believe I had this.
Monday,
I
they will
I-
pass a resolution, no, they'll pass a resolution that will be the final budget.
So I'm going to need a motion to go into an executive session to discuss collective bargaining.
So moved.
Is there any other
Mr.
things that we have to do?
Mannix, I can't, I don't have anything on the agenda, but I don't know if somebody else will come up with something. Need a second on the motion to go into
Yeah, I think
executive
it would be
session?
wrong for us to say that there won't be any action taken. I mean, we could come out of executive session and decide there's some action we want to take.
Bernie, if it's not necessary, I would like to not be present at it.
You've had a long day, Council.
It's my birthday.
If it's an update only, I can update you on the phone.
Okay, but I want to make one comment. Who does Jerry Renadette look like? What movie star?
Ooh.
Oh,
Very
my.
simple,
Don't say Mr. Ed.
very simple.
Lassie.
Nobody knows? Of course, nobody here goes to the movies.
That's correct.
Can't afford to.
They're disgusting.
You look like Ben Affleck.
I know the Affleck, I saw.
Man, he wants something from you.
I need a second. I need a second
I
on the
know the
motion.
Affleck dog.
All in favor indicate so
Hello,
by
and
saying
Danny
aye.
Affleck, please.
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, I
Going
did
into
find out
executive
that-
session
I
at
don't go to the movies.
8:47.